Humor is a good one, right? Because you can sneak your idea in under the guise of, I didn't mean this to be a good idea, I just wanted to make everyone laugh. But then later, after everyone stops laughing, they go like, hey, actually there's something nice about that.
Welcome to Stuck in Design, where our founders share candid conversations about design, creativity, and business. Let's begin.
If I'm a person who says that I'm not a creative and now I'd like to get some advice on how I can just maybe take that first step to be creative, could you help me to kind of understand how the fear of judgment ties in with this?
Do you mean to say how you can start? Like what approaches or what strategies you can take to kind of switch off those or switch on creativity?
Yeah.
It stems from first understanding what are your own personal constraints, right? And personal constraints might be your past experience. So it could be growing up and wanting everyone to like you, or it can be your educational background and having to say yes to whatever the teacher says and not raising your point of view for fear of being kind of beat up. Or beat up is not appropriate now, of course, or of being singled out by the teacher, right? And I think once you understand what it is, you can start by two things, right? One is either finding the places where you are confident, the areas that you're confident in, that these things are not such an issue for you. So if you're confident in creating, you have no confidence in drawing, you have no confidence in writing, but you have confidence in making, like whether it's baking or creating with paper or craft, then pick the language or the medium that you're most comfortable in. Then at least your technical skills don't become a hindrance to what you do. Of course, there's also the converse, right? Which is sometimes you're so comfortable with it that it becomes a crutch. Like you are so comfortable with writing already, sometimes writing becomes your crutch and you don't explore newer ways of creating. But I think that's maybe second stage. Maybe first stage, if you're really just not comfortable to begin with, find the medium that you're most comfortable in. Then the second thing is, if your biggest challenge is, how do I stop myself from self-censoring? Then is to find, hey, are there things or ways to get ideas out which allay those fears? So if it's about being anonymous, are there platforms that I can contribute ideas in an anonymous way so that if it's a crap idea, I don't feel bad because no one knows who I am, right? It's like asking questions in a seminar, for example, right? Of 100 people, you don't be the one that puts your hand up and asks the stupid question, so then you don't ask the question, where that stupid question could be the genesis of a really good question, right? So being able to ask it on, let's say, an online platform and say, okay, these are questions and they're anonymous and they can be voted up. That helps people. That helps some people get over that initial fear of saying, hey, this is a stupid question, maybe I shouldn't ask it. And it's the same for other acts of creation. Like if you're working in a team and you feel that, oh, this is a stupid idea, so I won't talk about it, then you might have to find other means to say, okay, what platforms or what strategies are available to me in this team or in this context that let me raise silly questions. And I think the easiest of which is just to preface your thing with, hey guys, it sounds like a stupid question, but what if we did this? Right? So it's sometimes being self-effacing helps, to a certain extent. If you are shy, then you can raise up obvious problems or stupid questions by just prefacing it. Yeah.
Right.
Or humor, like Kevin mentioned. Humor is a good one, right? Because you can sneak your idea in under the guise of, I didn't mean this to be a good idea, I just wanted to make everyone laugh. And that's a good way to sneak it in. But then later, after everyone stops laughing, they go like, hey, actually there's something nice about that. And then
Right. Oh, thanks for enlightening on that. It sounded like being aware of how you perceive the challenge of creativity is kind of as important as that creation part itself. Because being aware of how you respond to those like creative challenges would determine how you respond to it lah. And it sounds like what you mentioned about being maybe confident in the area, the language that you're comfortable in. It's a good way to get the ball
because
rolling.
like even the way that you frame the question or you frame that initial statement, which is, oh, I think I'm not creative, right? It's a mental construct. If you look at kids, they make their own games, they make their own toys if you give them stuff. And it's the same, just that adults have been conditioned. It's like language learning. Someone shared about language that why it's so critical to learn language at an early age is language is not about learning how to make new sounds. Language is about learning what sounds not to make. So if you speak English, you don't make certain sounds because it doesn't sound like English. It sounds like gibberish, right? And when you train yourself not to make those sounds, then it's hard to pick up a new language which requires you to make guttural sounds, for example, right? Because you don't use that in your daily expression. So it's the same thing with other acts of creation, right? Because speaking is also a creative exercise. You're forming thoughts, you're forming sentences as you speak. So same thing with other things, like even something as simple as, hey, make me a sandwich, right? And you can be very creative with how you make a sandwich. If you give everyone all the options possible, then they'll just make what they're comfortable with. Like you said, your dad, I have like planta and kaya and then done, right? But if you take planta and kaya away, like if you take away the comfort, like the crutches away, and say, hey, I need a sandwich, but this is all I have in my fridge. Don't know, bananas and rambutan or whatever is there. Then you'll be creative about what can I put together that might taste decent and won't make me puke, won't make the bread soggy. Then you start having this constraint, right? My sandwich must be neat looking, must not be soggy. The taste should be harmonious, or I like salty and sweet, so I find salty and sweet. And then that's what makes the creative act, right? And then also there are the constraints which you in your mind think of, okay, when I make a sandwich, this is what I like, or this is what it needs to fulfill.
Oh, that's so interesting because my I mean, over a dinner conversation with my family the other day, my dad was just commenting, yeah, you this generation, you don't know how to creatively do things or stuff. Then he gave the example of my grandfather using honeydew as making honeydew into soup because that was the ugliest fruit, the cheapest fruit available, and then that's how my grandfather determined what should be the soup of the day. Like that was only what he could afford. And so it's quite interesting, the idea of a constraint being actually freeing up, exercising that creative part of yourself.
Yeah, the reality is convenience is the biggest crutch, right? When you know you can get someone else to do it for you, or you can go and purchase a solution, that becomes the crutch for I don't have to be creative. I don't have to do this myself. I don't have to be involved in the act of creation.
I mean, what if we bring it into the context of like businesses that try to think of design as that be all and all of their challenges.
I don't know if this answers your question, but the challenge that most businesses have is exactly that. When you become bigger, when you have resources, then you start to get comfortable, right? Like then the crutch comes back. You have a level of complacency, or you have a level of comfort and convenience that the small startup with limited resources will find ways to, we need to get this stuff done, and we need to get it done in this budget because I don't have $1 million budget. And if they can get the same outcome or even like 80% with 1/10 of your budget, then you know you're screwed, right? Because then they're onto some innovative approach or innovative product. So that is always the challenge for companies, to set in enough constraints to keep the team on its toes, but at the same time, you have resources, and resources give you the ability to accelerate certain things. Yeah, and how to balance it is a tricky thing. Yeah, I think it's reflected in life too. I just saw a report, I think this morning or yesterday. They did a survey on what is the biggest sustainability challenge for people, and affluence is the biggest challenge, right? Because with affluence, you have convenience, you have purchasing power, you get stuff that you don't have the constraint that your grandpa had, right? Like to consume less, to spend less, to have a smaller footprint, and that just makes you not say lazy, but you go for the crunch, you go for the easy outcome.
I heard this quote somewhere. I think it was saying, is it a problem to be solved or a tension to be managed, or something along those lines? But do you solve it, or do you just manage that tension so that you still get the best, maybe most efficient outcome?
Yeah, part of it is a point of view, I think. Like you said, do you see it as a problem or do you see it as an opportunity, right? Because if you see a constraint, you go like, my boss gives me only like this budget, and like he doesn't give me a team to do this thing, and I have to do it in like half the time. So all these are perceived as problems, but at the same time, these are opportunities to try something different, right? Or to take a different approach to solve a problem with less resources, and so on. I think that the challenge here is, can the organization accept failure, right? Same with your own personal challenge with creativity is like, can you accept failure? Because when you take off your filter and say, I'm going to come up with 10 stupid ideas, they will be stupid ideas, right? They're like 9 out of 10 will be stupid ideas. So they'll be deemed as failures, and you have to accept that risk that, okay, I'll have 10 shitty ideas, but that's okay, because one of them is going to be great. And same thing for organization, right? If you say that, okay, we're going to put in these constraints and we want you to be able to drive a creative or really innovative outcome, then there is going to be some level of failure, or you need to have that room for failure as well.
Hi, I'm Matt, one of the hosts for Stuck in Design, and we've been working on this podcast for a couple of months now, and we really want to know what you think about it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, please leave a comment down below on any of our platforms.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next week on Stuck in Design.